You've been feeling it in your body, haven't you? That shift. Not the kind you can explain to someone over coffee or justify with logic, but the kind that moves through your cells like a whisper becoming a shout. Your twin flame, the one who ran, the one who built walls so high you couldn't see over them anymore, the one who convinced himself that distance was safety and silence was strength, he's changing. Right now, in this moment, and your system knows it before your mind has caught up. There's this electricity in the air around you lately, like the atmosphere before a storm breaks. You catch yourself staring at nothing, feeling everything. Your heart does this thing where it speeds up for no reason. And you absolutely know, it's because somewhere, in some city or state or country, he's thinking of you. Not the casual thinking he's done before, not the late night wondering or the nostalgic remembering. This is different. This is the kind of thinking that keeps him up at night, that makes him cancel plans, that has him staring at his phone with your name pulled up, his thumb hovering over the call button, his entire body screaming at him to stop running. You feel it too, don't you? The end of something, the beginning of everything. If you've been sensing this shift, if your intuition has been louder than ever, telling you something is different now, I need you to trust that knowing. Drop a comment below and simply say, "Divine Union is calling me home," and let that declaration anchor into your field. And if these transmissions speak to the deepest part of your soul, subscribe so you never miss the guidance that's meant specifically for you on this sacred journey. Let me tell you what's happening right now in the masculine energy, in your twin flame, in the man who thought he could outrun destiny. Something has broken open inside him. Not broken like shattered glass, but broken like a dam that's been holding back an ocean. For months, maybe years, he's been operating from a place of control, managing his feelings like a business transaction, keeping you at a distance he deemed safe, telling himself stories about timing and readiness and all the logical reasons why union couldn't happen yet. But those stories are dissolving. The walls are crumbling. And it's not because you chased him down or convinced him or proved your worth. It's because his soul has reached a point where the pain of separation has become greater than the fear of surrender. Have you noticed the signs? The way his energy feels different when you tune into it. The dreams that feel more like visitations than random subconscious processing. The synchronicities that are too specific to be coincidence. Your name showing up everywhere he looks. Songs that remind him of you playing in every store he enters. Conversations with strangers that somehow circle back to themes of soulmates and destiny and the one that got away. The universe isn't subtle anymore. It's practically screaming at him. And unlike before, when he could brush these signs off as projection or wishful thinking, now they're landing. Now they're penetrating the armor he built. Now they're making him question everything he thought he knew about what he wanted and what he could handle. This isn't about him suddenly becoming enlightened or having some massive spiritual awakening that transforms him overnight into the perfect partner. This is about him hitting a wall in his own evolution, where he can no longer ignore what his soul has been trying to tell him since the day you met. You are not optional. You never were. This connection isn't something he can compartmentalize or put on hold until his life looks a certain way. or until he feels more prepared. This is the kind of connection that demands everything, and he's finally beginning to understand that giving everything is the only way forward. Let me take you inside his experience right now, because understanding his journey doesn't mean excusing his absence or minimizing your pain. It means seeing the full picture, seeing how two souls can be moving toward the same destination while taking completely different paths to get there. The masculine energy in twin flame dynamics carries a particular kind of burden. He feels the connection just as intensely as you do. But his conditioning, his wounds, his entire lifetime of being taught that vulnerability equals weakness and surrender equals failure, all of it creates a prison he doesn't know how to escape. When he met you, when he felt that recognition, that soul deep knowing that you were significant in a way no one else had ever been, his first instinct wasn't to move toward you. It was to protect himself from you, because you represented everything he'd been taught to fear. Depth that couldn't be controlled, emotion that couldn't be managed, a love that demanded he show up as his authentic self, not the persona he'd perfected over years of performing masculinity the way society taught him. You were a mirror, and what he saw in that reflection terrified him. Not because you were flawed, but because you showed him his own wounds, his own unhealed places, his own capacity for feeling that he'd spent his whole life trying to suppress. So he ran, not from you, but from himself, from the version of himself that your presence called forward, the vulnerable one, the feeling one, the one who couldn't hide behind logic and control and emotional distance. But here's what's been happening during the separation. Here's what's been building inside him while you've been doing your inner work, while you've been healing and growing and learning to love yourself in ways you never did before. He's been dying, not physically, but spiritually. The version of himself that he thought he needed to be, the protected one, the defended one, the one who could live a half life and call it whole, that version has been slowly suffocating. Because you can't unknow a soul connection. You can't unfeel a twin flame bond. You can't pretend that the most significant meeting of your entire existence didn't happen just because it's inconvenient or scary or poorly timed. He's tried. God, has he tried. He's thrown himself into work, into other relationships, into hobbies and distractions, and anything that might fill the void that opened up when he walked away from you. And none of it works. None of it touches the ache. None of it comes close to the feeling of being truly seen, truly met, truly recognized the way you saw him. Other women might be easier, might demand less, might let him stay surface level and comfortable. But they're not you, and his soul knows the difference. His body knows the difference. Even his logical mind, the one that's been running the show for so long, is starting to admit the difference. There comes a point in the masculine's journey where the cost of running becomes higher than the cost of staying, where the energy it takes to maintain distance, to keep the walls up, to resist the pull of the connection, becomes more exhausting than the vulnerability of surrender. And that's where he is now. That's the shift you've been feeling. He's tired, bone deep, soul tired, tired of fighting himself, tired of fighting you, tired of fighting a connection that was never meant to be fought in the first place. The resistance that once felt like protection now feels like prison, and he's ready to break free. But something else is happening too, something that goes beyond his individual journey. You've been changing, transforming, becoming. And that transformation has been sending ripples through the energetic field you share. When you stopped chasing, when you stopped making him the center of your universe, when you stopped waiting for him to validate the connection or prove its reality, something shifted in the dynamic. You became the frequency instead of seeking it. You embodied union instead of waiting for it. And that shift in you created a shift in him, because that's how twin flame connections work. You're not two separate people having two separate experiences. You're one soul in two bodies, and what happens in one field affects the other. Every time you chose yourself, you were choosing the connection. Every time you honored your worth, you were raising the frequency. Every time you released the need for him to be different or ready or available, you were creating space for him to actually become those things. Not because you were manipulating energy or trying to make something happen, but because you were finally stepping into your truth. And truth has power. Truth shifts reality. Truth calls everything unlike itself to either rise or fall away. You became the temple, not just the doorway. You became the invitation, not the plea, and he feels it. He feels you differently now. Where before your energy might have felt like pressure, like expectation, like something he had to respond to or resist, now it feels like home, like peace, like the one place in the entire world where he doesn't have to pretend or perform or protect. You're not asking him for anything anymore. You're not waiting by the phone or checking his social media or analyzing every breadcrumb he drops. You're living, fully, beautifully, powerfully living. And that version of you, the sovereign one, the whole one, the one who knows her worth and doesn't need external validation, that version is magnetic in a way the chasing version never could be. This is the sacred paradox of twin flames. The more you release, the more you attract. The more you let go, the more comes back. The more you choose yourself, the more he's able to choose you. Because union isn't about two incomplete people finding completion in each other. It's about two whole souls choosing to create something together that neither could create alone. It's about meeting as equals, not as savior and saved. It's about standing in your own light so fully that when he finally steps into his, the two lights don't merge and disappear. They amplify. They illuminate. They create something that serves not just your connection, but the world around you. And he's beginning to understand this now. Beginning to see that the work isn't about getting his life perfect before he can have you. The work is about becoming the version of himself that can stand next to the version of you that you've become. He's watching you from whatever distance separates you, and he's seeing your growth, your transformation, your power. And instead of it intimidating him the way it might have before, it's inspiring him. It's showing him what's possible. It's giving him a roadmap for his own evolution. You're not just his mirror anymore. You're his North Star. The evidence that change is possible, that healing is real, that becoming your fullest self isn't just spiritual theory, but lived reality. The masculine's awakening doesn't look like the feminine's, where you might process through feeling and intuition and emotional release. He processes through crisis and breaking points, and the complete dismantling of old structures. He has to hit bottom before he can rise. He has to lose everything he thought defined him before he can discover who he actually is underneath the conditioning. And that process isn't pretty. It's not linear. It doesn't follow a timeline that makes sense to anyone watching from the outside. But it's happening right now, in ways you might not see but can absolutely feel. His relationships are falling apart, not because he's sabotaging them, but because they can't hold the frequency of who he's becoming. Friendships that were built on shared dysfunction or surface-level connection are dissolving. Romantic relationships that were comfortable but not soul-aligned are ending. Career paths that looked good on paper but felt empty in practice are being abandoned. He's in the process of clearing out everything that isn't authentic, everything that isn't true, everything that isn't aligned with the version of himself that your connection called forward. And that clearing process is painful. It's lonely, it's disorienting, but it's necessary, because you can't bring old energy into new union. You can't carry outdated patterns into a connection that's meant to transform not just your lives, but the collective consciousness. Twin flame union isn't a reward for good behavior or a prize for completing enough inner work. It's a responsibility. It's a mission. It's a frequency that gets activated when both souls are ready to hold it, not just for themselves, but for everyone their union touches. And the universe doesn't activate that frequency until both people have done enough clearing, enough healing, enough becoming that they can handle the magnitude of what they're stepping into. So when I tell you he can't wait anymore, I'm not saying he's going to show up on your doorstep tomorrow with flowers and apologies and a perfectly articulated understanding of everything that's happened between you. I'm saying the internal shift has happened. The point of no return has been crossed. The decision has been made at a soul level, even if his human self is still catching up. He's done running, not because running stopped feeling good, but because it stopped being possible. His system is rejecting the separation. His body is rejecting the lie. His soul is demanding alignment, and alignment means you. You might start noticing changes in how he shows up, if he's in contact. Or you might feel changes in the energy between you, even if you haven't spoken in months. The quality of his presence, even from a distance, feels different. Heavier, more solid, more certain. Where before there might have been this flighty, inconsistent energy, this sense that he was half in and half out, now there's a groundedness, a commitment that exists before the physical reunion even happens. He's preparing, whether he consciously knows it or not, clearing space in his life, ending chapters that need to end, becoming the man who can hold space for the woman you've become. And here's what you need to understand about this phase. This isn't about you waiting perfectly or doing anything to speed up the process or make him move faster. This is about you continuing to honor your own journey, your own growth, your own life, while holding space for what's unfolding. You don't need to reach out. You don't need to make it easier for him. You don't need to be available the second he decides he's ready. You need to keep choosing yourself, keep building your life, keep honoring your worth, keep standing in your truth, because that's what's creating the container for union. Not your availability, but your sovereignty. The divine feminine's role in this phase isn't to wait by the phone. anxiously checking for messages or signs that he's thinking of you. It's not about keeping the door open just enough that he can slip back in whenever it's convenient for him. It's not about making sure he knows you're still interested, still available, still holding space for him while he figures himself out. That's not your role at all. And if you've been playing that part, it's time to release it completely. Your role, your sacred work, your divine assignment in this phase is to be so fully expressed, so completely yourself, so anchored in your own worth and power and purpose that when he does step forward, when he finally shows up ready and clear and aligned, he's stepping into something real, something solid, something that demands his highest self, not his half-hearted effort. Something that requires him to show up as the man he's been avoiding becoming. You're not a consolation prize that he settles for when his first choices don't work out. You're not a backup plan that he keeps on the shelf just in case everything else falls apart. You're not the person he comes to when his ego has been bruised by the world and he needs someone to validate him back to comfort. You're the woman he rises to meet because you've set a standard, a frequency, a level of self-respect that accepts nothing less than his full presence, his full authenticity, his full commitment to both himself and to what you could build together. And that standard, that unwavering knowing of what you deserve, doesn't come from ego or control or trying to teach him a lesson. It doesn't come from a place of punishment or revenge or making him pay for the pain he caused during separation. It comes from self-love, from genuinely knowing your value at a cellular level, from understanding that you deserve a love that matches the love you've cultivated for yourself. You've spent this separation time, these months or years of absence and silence and confusion, learning how to fill your own cup, learning how to be your own source of validation, of joy, of security, learning how to create joy and peace and fulfillment that doesn't depend on his presence or absence, on whether he texts you or ignores you, on whether he's thinking of you or has forgotten you exist. That's not work you did to pass the time until he came back. That's not just a distraction to make the waiting more bearable. That's work you did to become whole, to become complete within yourself, to integrate all the fragmented pieces of yourself that you'd been giving away to others for validation. And wholeness doesn't compromise. Wholeness doesn't settle for less than it deserves. Wholeness doesn't accept crumbs and call it a feast, doesn't accept breadcrumbs of attention and pretend it's the nourishment your soul actually needs. So, as he moves through his awakening, as he clears his old life and prepares for union, as he dismantles the false structures he built to avoid his truth, you get to keep living yours, fully, unapologetically, powerfully, without apology, without permission, without waiting for him to be ready before you allow yourself to thrive. You get to date if you want to. You get to explore other connections that might surprise you, that might teach you things about yourself you didn't know. You get to build a career and friendships, and a life that fulfills you completely, independent of whether he ever shows up or not. You get to travel, create, explore, expand, become. You get to say yes to opportunities that light you up and no to situations that dim your light. You get to be selfish with your energy, protective of your peace, intentional about who and what you allow into your space, Because here's the truth that will set you free, the truth that will release you from the prison of waiting. Union is not the destination. You are. Becoming the fullest expression of yourself is the destination. Embodying your highest potential is the goal. Union is just what happens when two people who have done that work, who have become whole and sovereign and complete, decide to create together. It's the byproduct, not the purpose. It's what emerges naturally when two people who don't need each other choose each other anyway. The moment you release union as a goal and embrace it as a potential, as one of many beautiful possibilities rather than the only acceptable outcome, everything changes. The desperation dissolves like sugar in water. The anxiety quiets to a whisper and then to silence. The obsessive checking and analyzing and trying to figure out timing, trying to decode every synchronicity and number sequence and dream, all of it falls away. And what's left is peace, presence, power. You stop living in the future, constantly waiting for the day when he finally gets it together, when he finally wakes up, when he finally realizes what he lost. You start living in the now, honoring what is rather than what might be, creating beauty and meaning and purpose right here, right where you are, with what you have. And that shift from future-focused to present-anchored is what completes the energetic circuit. That's what signals to the universe that you're ready. Not ready for him to come back, not ready to finally have the reunion you've been obsessing over, but ready for whatever is meant to unfold next, ready to receive whatever your soul has been calling in, ready to trust the journey even when you can't see the destination. Because maybe he does come back. Maybe the reunion happens in this lifetime, in this chapter, in the way your human self has been hoping and praying for. Maybe he shows up on your doorstep one day, transformed and ready, with clarity in his eyes and certainty in his heart. Maybe he finally says all the things you needed to hear, finally acknowledges the connection, finally chooses you with his whole being. And if that's what's aligned, if that's what your soul's contracted for, it will be beautiful. It will be worth every moment of separation and pain and growth. It will be the kind of love that transforms everything it touches, that ripples out and affects everyone around you. That becomes a living testament to what's possible when two people do their inner work. But maybe the union happens differently than you expected. Maybe it's energetic rather than physical, a merging that happens in the quantum field rather than in your living room. Maybe it's a brief encounter that catalyzes both of your next chapters rather than a traditional relationship. Maybe you meet for coffee and realize that the connection served its purpose, and now you're meant to walk different paths. Maybe the purpose of this connection was never about being together in the conventional sense, never about the white picket fence and shared last name, but about awakening each other to your fullest potential so you could go out and fulfill your individual missions with more power and clarity. Maybe you were meant to break each other open so the light could get in. And now that the light is in, the breaking is complete. And here's what's radical about reaching this level of surrender, this level of genuine release. You become okay with all of it. Not in a defeated, giving up way, not in a bitter, resigned way, but in a trusting, faithful way. You trust that whatever is meant to happen will happen, You trust that your soul knows the plan even when your mind doesn't, even when your human self is confused and frustrated and demanding answers. You trust that the connection served its purpose, is serving its purpose, will continue to serve its purpose regardless of what form it takes. Whether that's marriage or separation, physical reunion or energetic completion, a lifetime together or a brief encounter. And that trust is freedom. That trust is power. That trust is what allows you to live fully instead of half alive, waiting for permission from someone else to start your real life. That trust is what allows you to stop putting your dreams on hold. Stop saying I'll do that when he comes back. Stop making your entire existence contingent on someone else's choices. So yes, he can't wait anymore. Yes, the shift is happening. Yes, something is different now and you're not imagining it. The energy has changed. The frequency has shifted. Something in the collective consciousness of the twin flame journey has reached a tipping point. But the question isn't whether he's finally ready. The question isn't whether his awakening is complete or whether he's finally done running. The question is, are you? Are you ready to meet him as an equal, not as someone who's been waiting and therefore feels entitled to his devotion? Are you ready to maintain your sovereignty even in union, to keep your sense of self even when you're building something together? Are you ready to build something together without losing yourself in the process, without abandoning the woman you became during separation? Are you ready to hold space for a love that's bigger than both of you, that serves a purpose beyond your personal happiness, that's meant to contribute something to the collective? Are you ready to be the woman who doesn't need him, but chooses him, who doesn't complete herself through him, but amplifies herself with him, who doesn't look to him to fill her voids, but invites him to dance in her fullness? Because that's what divine union requires, not two halves becoming whole, not the tired old narrative of you complete me, but two wholes becoming something exponentially greater. Two sovereign beings creating something that neither could create alone. Not two wounded people healing each other, codependently clinging to each other's brokenness, but two healed people creating from overflow, from abundance, from wholeness. Not two souls seeking completion, desperately searching for the missing piece, but two souls recognizing they were always complete and now choosing to create together from that wholeness, from that place of already being enough. And if you're not there yet, if you're reading this and realizing you still have work to do, that's okay. That's not a judgment or a failure. That's just information. That's the universe showing you where your work still lives, where your growth still beckons, where your becoming still calls. It's an invitation, not a condemnation. The masculine can't wait anymore because his soul is demanding alignment. His higher self is no longer willing to tolerate the misalignment between who he truly is and who he's been pretending to be. But your soul is demanding something too. It's demanding that you honor yourself, that you choose yourself first, always, without apology, that you build a life so full and rich and meaningful that his presence or absence doesn't determine your worth or your joy or your sense of purpose. It's demanding that you become the woman who doesn't wait for union, but embodies it, who doesn't seek her twin flame, but becomes the flame herself, burning so brightly that everything unlike her truth either rises to match or falls away naturally, who doesn't look outside for completion, but radiates completion so fully that everything unlike it either transforms in her presence or removes itself from her field. This is the final initiation before union, not the work of becoming perfect or healed or ready according to some external standard, according to what some guru or teacher says you should be, but the work of becoming so rooted in your own truth that nothing can shake you, so anchored in your own worth that nothing can diminish you, so committed to your own path that nothing can distract you from your purpose. When you reach that place, when you embody that frequency, when you become that woman, union stops being something you're waiting for and becomes something you're living. Not with him necessarily, not in the physical form you've been imagining, but within yourself. And that internal union, that sacred marriage of your own masculine and feminine, your own light and shadow, your own human and divine, your own strength and softness, that's what creates the frequency that calls in external union, or doesn't. And here's the profound truth that changes everything. You're genuinely okay either way. Not the kind of okay where you're gritting your teeth and forcing yourself to accept something painful. Not the kind of okay where you're pretending you don't care while secretly checking your phone every 5 minutes. But truly, deeply, authentically okay. Because something fundamental has shifted within you. You've already found what you were looking for all along. You've already discovered that the treasure wasn't buried in someone else's heart, it was buried in your own. You've already become what you were seeking in another person. All those qualities you admired in him, all those attributes you thought only he possessed, all that light you believed he alone could bring into your life, you've cultivated them within yourself. You've already created the love you thought you needed someone else to give you. You've learned to speak to yourself with tenderness. You've learned to hold yourself through the difficult moments. You've learned to celebrate yourself in the victories. You've become your own source of validation, your own fountain of affection, your own wellspring of acceptance. And from that place of fullness, of genuine completion, of true sovereignty, whatever happens next is just the cherry on top. It's no longer the main course you're desperately hungry for. It's no longer the oxygen you think you need to breathe. It's no longer the missing piece without which your puzzle feels incomplete. It's just the cherry on top, just the bonus round, just the extra blessing, just the additional gift, just the universe saying, "Look at you. You did the work when it was hard. You showed up for yourself when no one else was showing up. You chose yourself when everything in you wanted to choose him instead. You honored yourself when it would have been easier to abandon yourself for breadcrumbs of his attention. Now let's see what magic you can create when you're not creating from lack or need or incompletion, but from pure overflow, from genuine abundance, from authentic wholeness. Now let's see what kind of reality you can manifest when you're not trying to fill a void, but rather sharing from a cup that's already overflowing. Now let's witness what becomes possible when you're not grasping and clinging and desperately trying to make something happen, but instead allowing, receiving, and magnetizing from a place of already being full. So, beloved, let this be your reminder, your wake-up call, your permission slip, your invitation, your liberation. He can't wait anymore, yes, that's true. The shift is happening, yes, that's real. Divine union is calling, yes, that's absolutely valid. But here's what's even more important. Here's what changes the entire game. It's calling you first. It's not calling both of you simultaneously in some cosmic conference call. It's calling you before it's calling him. It's calling you into the depths of your own being. It's calling you into yourself, into the fullness of who you are, into your power, that sacred power you've been giving away to him, to the connection, to the timeline, to the outcome, into your truth, that deep knowing that lives beneath all the noise and confusion and mixed signals. Into the version of you that doesn't need external validation or proof, or timelines or signs, or confirmation or reassurance. Into the version of you that knows, deeply and unshakably, in the very marrow of your bones, that you are already whole, already worthy of everything you desire, already complete exactly as you are, already everything you need to live a magnificent life. And if he shows up ready to match that frequency, ready to meet you in that place of wholeness, ready to join you in that space of sovereignty, ready to build something beautiful with you from a foundation of two complete people, rather than two halves seeking completion. Beautiful, truly beautiful. Welcome him. Celebrate it, embrace it, enjoy it. And if he doesn't, if he's still on his journey, if he's still working through his patterns, if he's still not ready, if he's still choosing fear over love, still beautiful. Still absolutely beautiful, because you're no longer waiting for him to make your life meaningful. You're not sitting by the window watching for him to arrive so your real life can finally begin. You're already living meaningfully. You're already waking up with purpose. You're already creating beauty in every corner of your existence. You're already expressing your unique essence. You're already fulfilling purpose, your divine purpose that has nothing to do with him and everything to do with who you came here to be. You're already contributing your gifts to the world, those special talents and perspectives and offerings that only you can bring. You're already becoming who you came here to be, unfolding into the fullest expression of your soul. And that, beloved, that right there, that is what union actually is. That's the secret they don't tell you at the beginning of the twin flame journey. Not the merging with another person, not the romantic coming together, not the physical reunion, not the happily ever after with your divine counterpart, but the merging with yourself, the integration of all your fragmented parts, the coming home to your own soul after a lifetime of abandoning yourself for others. The recognition, the deep soul recognition, that you were never incomplete to begin with, that the separation you felt was never real, that the wholeness you sought was never outside of you, that you were always enough, always complete, always worthy, always divine, always home. Tell me, beautiful soul, have you felt this shift from waiting for union to embodying it? What changed in you when you stopped making him the center and started making yourself the priority? Drop your truth in the comments. Your insight might be exactly what another soul needs to hear today to give themselves permission to stop waiting and start living. Because union begins with her. Always has, always will.